Hey, you're listening to Off the Record, 88.1 WKNC's Interviews podcast. Be sure to subscribe via iTunes and never miss an episode. Enjoy listening.
88.1 WKNC, you are tuned in, well, I guess it's not the local beat anymore, but we are accompanied by a local band. This is Smoke from All the Friction, and you actually just heard one of their singles. That was Smoke and...
Cross and Tattoo.
Cross and Tattoo.
Not Cross and Tattoo Final, which I almost wrote.
Or Smoke and Tattoo.
Smoke and Tattoo.
Too much smoke. Anyways, how about you guys introduce yourselves real quick?
Hey, I'm Ina, and I play the violin, sing, do keys, and sometimes electric bass.
I'm Cam, and I do all the nerdy studio stuff. And I play keyboard, and I sing, and I kind of whatever instruments laying around.
So tell us a little bit about how this project started. Are you guys Raleigh-based?
Kinda. We were both living in Greenville at the time, Greenville, North Carolina. And she was going to ECU, and my parents lived there, so just kind of transitioning between things. And she put a Craigslist post looking for like a singer-songwriter. She said she's a poet, and I'm totally not a singer-songwriter, but I'm like, we can work this. And we just wrote one song together, and it was really, I don't know, flowed really well. She's an extremely different person than I am, but I think we're pretty complementary.
In terms of your music styles?
Everything. I would say everything.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, we're so different in every way.
Yeah.
Oh, we probably would never have crossed paths if I hadn't put that Craigslist ad up. And it's just kind of weird, like who thinks of forming a band through Craigslist anymore? It's kind of sketchy for some.
Well, actually, I've a few bands that we've interviewed. Like that was their story. Was
really?
Someone posted a Craigslist ad and they picked and chose from the responses that they got. I guess they did like an audition for all the responses. But was he the first response that you got, or
no? There was a hip hop group that asked me to join them, and I was like, I don't know if I can do that because I don't know how to rap.
Oh,
it was a rap group, and they were like, oh, it's cool, you can try, and I never responded. And then he was the second one to respond.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did he approach you? Like, did you say, I have this idea for this pop project, or was it just kind of
he showed me
very
a
open
video that he had done with his other band, Ambits, and I thought it was different from what I had been thinking of, but I wanted to check it out because there were a lot of elements that were really cool that were going on, so I wanted to see if we would be able to work together.
Awesome. So this song we just heard was a single that you guys recently released. I guess you had a release show at, was it Slims? Yeah. We actually had Gabriel David on air right before then.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
He's a nice dude.
Yeah, he's great.
Smiles too much. But
He what?
Smiles too much.
Too much? No.
Never too much.
I think he's kidding.
Yeah, I like him.
Yeah, he's great. Where was I getting with that? Oh, anyways, so you have that single released. Are you working on like a bigger release right now, like an EP, or are you just gonna kind of take it song by song?
So, I mean, historically, you're supposed to release an EP and then an album and everything, but I really like production and not sleeping, so I have a lot of gear and been doing that for a while. And but I also want to do something different, like not only just to keep us interested, but to challenge us. Like a lot of our themes and both the music we write and the way we interact, trying to like pursue like personal development as well as artistic development. And I didn't want to write just an album, and I was thinking about it. And Ina is actually like borderline professional poet. Like she just cranks out all kinds of poetry all the time, and like just has a way with words that is like really impressive. Like most people I know who write poetry, they try to use these huge words all the time. They like almost trying to prove a point to themselves. Like she can, but like her ability to use like even like tiny words and I would say like subtlety is like really impressive. So like how can we leverage that and create art at the same time? So it came this idea of like release like a five song album, but in between each of the songs, we call them interludes.
Interludes, yeah.
So basically instead of kind of building lyrics and words around music, we're going to build the music around the words. So that allowed her to like express a lot more subtlety in words, and almost more like the music in this tracks will be a soundtrack as opposed to the focal point.
Mm-hmm. So is it kind of like you read her poetry and it gives you a certain feel and you kind of build the music off of that, or do you sometimes surprise yourself and build something different?
Yes.
Than what you're
I mean, part of it is like one of the reasons I really like working with her is that a lot of stuff I create and she creates, we would never create together because we approach life really, really different, both like in our ideologies as well as our music. Like it almost, the word we use is tension. So there's like two different forces that can create a force that you wouldn't have otherwise. And so if I just wrote a song by myself, I'd write it this way. But because of having her in the room, she's like, why don't you try this? Or like, or I heard this, try to express this certain emotion here on this word. It gives me almost a challenge in a way. So like, how can I express these ideas she can express in words through music?
Awesome. How about we play another track, I guess?
Sure.
Which one?
You want something happier or sadder?
I like both.
Well,
Yeah, diverse.
I mean, or maybe let's go sad and then we can close on a happy note.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, we have 2 tracks. These are not really released yet. This will be the first time you hear them. The entire world here.
Yes.
This song's called Panther. It's it's darker. Voice just correct. Panther.
Oh gosh. Yeah, you did a little paw when you said Panther. I appreciated that.
And this is Smoke from All the Friction, and we'll be right back with an interview after their track. So keep it locked.
Slow down, lost control. Replace calculation with mob syndrome. We've grown past our shallows. We must analyze, we can't assume. Watchmen have gone too far. Don't stop until abuse is on a mark. We observe and mediate. This injustice won't proliferate. Push me to the corner. 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 Push me. Clones come out. Witness me. Ignited up its stories. The flames ignited up its stories. The flames ignited up its stories. The flames ignited. We assess the every move. Trust has shown it's proven to be abused. Enough's enough, never going down. Be it guns and words, this won't continue on. Push me to the corner. 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 Push me close. Come out. Witness the beast you've let out. Nothing's ignited up its race. Nothing's ignited up its race. Nothing's ignited up its race. Nothing's ignited. Slow down, we've lost control. Sublime calculation with the mob syndrome. We've grown past our shallows. We must analyze, we can't assume.
.1 WKNC. You were just listening to some Smoke from All the Friction. That was their song Panther, and they're actually here right now in the flesh.
Hey guys.
So you guys have a couple of shows coming up.
We have a lot of shows coming up.
A lot of shows. Mm-hmm. What's
so we got one this Sunday. That's July 30th in Carborough. It's the Jazz and More Festival, and we're definitely more. So we'll see how that goes.
Where's that going to be?
Carborough on Weaver Street.
Oh, is it just like an outdoor festival?
Yeah, it's like on the lawn. And
that's awesome.
People bring their picnic blankets or lawn chairs and whatever else.
It's public.
Yeah.
And that's this weekend?
Yep.
Yes, on Sunday.
So 2 days from now. 2 days, yeah,
2
Sunday.
days from now.
Hopefully it will not be pouring like today.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, forecast, come on. We also have a show on August 4th in Raleigh at the Maywood. So,
Who will that be with?
We're playing with, we call it
Retro Candy.
Retro Candy and a friend of ours, Tyler Bradford Wright. It's kind of spacey, happy, folk without folk stuff. Yeah, and I think that's... Then on September 16th, we're playing at SparkCon. So we're pretty excited about that.
We outside.
Yeah, so...
With all the art.
Yeah, hopefully. I think we consider ourselves art. We're art.
I think so.
We're artists.
Yeah.
We're all artists.
Artists dead.
Artists, yeah.
So what kind of performance do you all put on? Like, what can someone expect if they're to go out to one of your shows?
So as much as possible, like, we try to involve crowds. Most people are like, oh, sing this part with us. And like, I mean, that's an element of it, but I try to focus more on like the ideas behind why you would do that in the first place. So depending on the set we pick, we try to like, we have like a drum circle. So I'll just like walk in the crowd, stick like a big tom drum and hand out like 20 drumsticks. And like,
I love that.
Sometimes it goes really well. And sometimes you're like, oh, it's so bad. But,
Yeah.
Do people ever just not want to participate?
So far, no. Most people are just like really gung ho about it.
I mean, so
Awesome.
most people are like pretty into it, but I usually pick one person. He's like, I'm like, here. They're like,
Yeah.
and then they really get into it because like part of it is there's like this separation between like the performer and the performance, and people want to be part of something. People want like a little community, and they're like, would you rather say, oh, I went to a show? It's like I participated in that show, so that's what I would want to be like if I was going to a show. So we try to, as much as possible, extend that to everybody else.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
And we also have lights that are synced to the beat, sort of. We've programmed them, or Cam has really.
Wow.
So yeah, different colors, different. Every song is different. So.
Because like the whole concept is to put on a performance. You know, most people are like, oh, I'm just gonna play guitar, which if that works, that's cool. But just like you're trying to appeal to like your auditory senses. You should also appeal to like the sense of community, but also appeal to like, what if I could emphasize this part like through lights or through some other means? Like we're trying to focus on the end goal of crafting an emotion or a feeling or an experience.
Just completely immerse people in it.
That's what we're going for.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So how do you program lights? Do you like based on the song, like time it correctly, or does it actually like pick up on what you're playing?
Both. Depends. You can do both. So what I usually do like at my house, I'll basically take like a mixing board, and so all the different faders I'll assign to different parameters on the lights, and I'll play the lights. So instead of playing notes, I'm actually playing like, okay, I'm going to turn the violet all the way up in this certain part, or cut out, or turn on a strobe here. But basically create a performance with the lights, and then I record that, and then we play back the performance of it.
That'll go really well at SparkCon.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
So how do you record your music? It sounds like you know a lot about tech. Is that something you do yourself, or?
Yeah, well, I used to do it when I was younger because I didn't have any money, and I thought I could do it better than everybody else. And I was really wrong. I wasn't wrong about not having money, but I was wrong about being able to do it. But I've been doing it for so long, like it's almost part of the process to me. Because a lot of guys go and record, and they go and record with somebody that they don't know, and like that can be a really good thing. That also can be a really bad thing. So it kind of allows us to have like an additional like ability to craft the art and express ideas that you wouldn't necessarily have control over, or take risks, or do some things wrong that are I don't know, for artistic purpose.
Gives you more creative freedom, I guess.
Also allows you to really mess things up and not sleep. So
yeah, you're saying that you mixed the song we just heard like last night.
Yeah, I got done about 4:30.
Wow. How are you feeling?
I'm kind of post sleep at this point. Like just my brain
like
thinks
when your
it's
body gives up. Like, well, you didn't sleep, so time to be awake.
Exactly.
Been there.
It's about 11 o'clock. Just be like,
What is sleep?
Yeah. Artists don't sleep. Art doesn't sleep.
Awesome. And so we were talking a little bit on the break that you're actually coming to NC State next fall.
Yeah, this fall. I'm going to be pursuing my MFA in creative writing in poetry. So I'm really excited. The program's really small. I've already met a bunch of the people in the program, and they're all super supportive and like really welcoming. So I'm really excited, nervous and excited.
Do you feel like it's going to help your music career as well to be in that type of program?
I think so. A lot of the people in the program are actually musicians, I've discovered, and they have jam sessions all the time with each other. So along with that, like, kind of, like that sort of like friendship sort of ideal, there's also the collaborative ideal of like making music together and writing together. And so, yeah.
So do both of you play, I guess, with other people as well? Or is this sort of your main thing right now?
This is our main thing. It's our baby right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we play around a little bit. I do. Like, yeah, it's fun, I guess.
I haven't done this in a while. I used to play in like string quartets for like weddings and...
Real music.
Wow.
No, come on. What is real music?
It's all real.
It's art. It's all
Violin.
real.
Violin is
Violin is real music.
It's the requirement.
It's the only real music.
The only real music is violin
It's
music.
what everyone's striving to be.
Yeah.
Guitarists are just failed violinists.
Aw.
Not true. So how about we play that third track you guys brought along?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's another non-released one, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is on
Exclusive.
the new album art project we're doing. This is the denouement. So this is kind of the resolution of the album.
We can talk a little bit more about that after the break, because that sounds interesting. So what is this track called?
It's called The Clumsiest Waltz.
And we are interviewing...
Smoke from all the picture.
Yeah.
much thought into the walk I choose. Slow dance to the frequency of your heartbeat. Everything's much louder than it should be. Stand much closer than the hands we hold. Couldn't tell you why my fingertips are cold. Kick all of the crutches off one by one. There's not a single thing that we outrun. Through the middle distance, you will see. Never really thought of anything. Look behind the curtains, and never was a lot of room for you. Catch a little cold after you walk with me. Press your palm into the haze, into the breeze. Time for bread and coffee on a rainy day. Should blow over soon and it won't be too late. Never was a lot of room for you.
88.1 WKNC. You are just listening to Smoke from All the Friction. That was their track. Was it Clumsy Waltz?
The clumsiest waltz.
The clumsiest, not just clumsy, clumsiest.
Yes.
The number
Waltz.
one most clumsy waltz.
Mm-hmm.
So we are joined by Smoke from All the Friction, as you can tell.
Hello.
Hi. Yeah, and we've been listening to some tracks off of an album that they are currently working on. So we were talking a little bit about conceptual things during the break. So let's start off with that song that we just heard. So we were talking about how it's a waltz.
Yeah, it was weird. It started off, I asked Cam if he could do a song in 7 instead of in 4/4 or whatever. It turned into a song in 6, and I was ready.
One away, almost
One
there.
away, yeah, just not quite. But I, that's still not really a waltz because a waltz is in 3/4 time. So I thought maybe I could still make this about the tension in a clumsy relationship, because that's what the song is about. It's about sort of the tension between two people when things have gone awkward or stale or dry. And it's sort of a backwards love song is what I call it. And just the idea that there's so much that can go wrong in a relationship, and sometimes you just have to be accepting of that. So I wanted to play around with this idea of a waltz, because it's two people dancing, and you know, a clumsy one is sort of like that awkward relationship that I wanted to allude to.
Awesome. So we were also talking about how the album, it's always going to be a concept album.
It's conceptual, yeah.
It is going to be a conceptual album, and everything is going to sort of tie together among a bigger theme. Could you touch a little bit on what some of those things you can find in the album will be?
Sure. Like in painted, or I guess visual art, like there's a term like mixed media, which they usually use to like say, oh, I used watercolors and I used pastels, or that's not bad. Different types. And I think music and bands typically don't think of art in a mixed media fashion. They limit themselves just to the auditory spectrum, or just like, this is our song, this is our one thing that we do in art. And I'm like, that's very limiting. So I was like, how can we, not both live, but also in our album, how can we have like different types of media in there to further intensify the different types that we have? So for instance, like if you have this other type of media, you can actually make your music sound even better, because it allows you to see it in a different light, in a different context. And so what we're trying to do with this concept album that we have coming up is, like, we'll have 4 interludes in between the different songs. We have 5 songs that have an overarching theme in between them, and 4 interludes that are not quite spoken word, they're kind of poetry with a narrative that tie together all these different songs and the overarching ideas behind them. And that allows you to have a little more narrative approach, because a lot of subtlety is lost in words, generally, if you have to put them in a song. And so instead of focusing on the music's going to allow, on these interludes, is like going to allow you to focus more on the actual words themselves. And so the theme we were kind of going for is, it's sort of a coming of age. I really don't like that term at all, but it's more of how a young adult, and as a millennial, how do we deal with becoming an adult, and do we want to become an adult? And for instance, like doing adult things, does that make us adult? Or how overindulging on adult things actually makes you act more like a child? And basically figuring out how to explore morality and how to live your life and the best decisions, not from a societal level, but from an internal level. Like if I was outside of myself, what would be the best decisions for me to make? And for instance, choosing to pursue seeing yourself as you really are, and like I guess some common enlightenment topics. Because a lot of music is very much of an escapist thing, and this is more of trying to see the world more realistically.
What do you mean by an escapist thing?
Well, often, I think people listen to music so they can close their eyes and escape from the world, so they can feel better.
Instead of dealing with the reality.
Which, that's not to say it's a bad thing. We need to escape, but often, like, I think art has a responsibility and its place to also bring you close to reality and to see yourself and society around you in a more realistic and humble light.
So do you draw a lot of, I guess, concepts from your own personal life in your music and writing?
Yes, I would say so. Like I said, this last song that was played is from my own experience with my last relationship, or just relationships in general. And I'm one of those people that, like, I like to people watch a lot. So, like, it's interesting to me just watching interactions between people, like, on the street, or, you know, just random ones that you think are not important, and, like, how they build up into this, like, story of a person. But yeah, I would say I draw heavily on, like, everyday life.
Do you ever see people and make up stories about what their lives might be?
Yes, all the time.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm really creepy for saying this, but yes, I do.
No, I mean, I feel like it's natural. We're all
like
empathetic beings.
Yeah, I'll see like an old man, you know, walking his dog, and I'm like, maybe he's going home to his wife, and they're gonna have like dinner and talk about like pigeons in the park or something. I don't know. I'm making this up.
Sweet old man things.
Yeah, sweet old man things, or maybe he's like secretly like a superhero or something. I don't know. I'm making stuff up now.
Maybe.
You know, you never know.
You don't know. So, you have an interesting band name. Does that have any particular story behind it?
Yes, everything.
Everything does, yeah.
I mean, I think as if you're going to call yourself an artist, or even pursuing creating art, I think you have a responsibility to, as much as possible, like, I don't know, put a lot of effort into it. I want to create everything with this, like, even just how I do my lights, or how, like, she sings a particular note, or a band name comes from. I want to know why I did that. I want everything that we do to be very intentional. Because, like, if you can pursue, like, creating art that's intentional, it allows you to live every other area of your life intentional. And I think I'd like to live in a society where people were very intentional people. So, to actually answer your question, yes. Go ahead.
And I feel like our name, too, touches on that idea of tension that we had mentioned earlier, because Smoke from All the Friction is actually one of the lyrics I wrote. And it's in a song that talks about people sort of like just going along with their lives, brushing against each other, but not really finding out anything about the other people around them. And so I'm interested, like I said, in the interactions between people and the friction that results from like jostling against someone else. And I think that's sort of what our name entails. And also the idea, like in classical music, I was always trained to like perform a certain way, or like, you know, hold my violin a certain way, and you can't move too much, whatever. I think there's a responsibility on the musician to communicate beyond what is going on, just the music. Like, music is communication when you think about it. You're trying to deliver a message or a feeling or something to whoever's listening, and it's not just performance. To me, it's interactive.
Everything's so well thought out. I love it. So if people want to find your music or what shows you guys have coming up, where can they find you?
We are super active on Facebook and Instagram, and our stuff is on Spotify and iTunes. Yeah.
We have a Reverb Nation, too.
Oh, Reverb Nation.
So that would just be Smoke from All the Fiction. People can look it up on Facebook or wherever they want to find you.
It's a long enough name. Probably won't have much else coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so our tag is just Smoke from All the Friction, one word, on Instagram.
Okay, cool. So I guess we should touch on what shows we have coming up, or you guys have coming up one more time.
Sure.
Before we close things off.
So if you live anywhere near Carborough, this Sunday we'll be playing the Jazz and More Festival, which is, I think, goes on most Sundays during the summer. And it's
Is it a weekly thing?
I think so.
Oh, Carborough's got so much going on.
Yeah, there's not many people there, but there seems to be a lot of people there. So
They got some culture.
yeah, good job, Carborough. So we're playing that. That'll be actually in the morning. I think we're playing at like 11-ish.
Or like, yeah, something like that.
Like 11 to 3, around there.
Wait, you're playing 11 to 3?
Anywhere from 11.
Oh, I was like,
Some-
no. You're going to be playing some covers.
No.
3 hours.
Not quite yet.
And if you're in Raleigh, this next Friday we'll be playing at the Maywood, and with some other cool bands. Should be a good time. Looking forward to that one.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got a couple other stuff, but the best way to find out about stuff is just follow our Instagram and Facebook. We'll be sure to post that quite often when we have shows coming up.
Yeah.
Awesome. And will some of these tracks that we heard on air today be released soon, or is it something sort of pending? No.
Cross and
final
Tattoo is already
date.
released, so that one's out there. The other two will, as far as we know, will probably be released when the album's done,
Okay.
unless we get really antsy.
Yeah.
You can see them live if you want to.
Yeah, we'll play them live.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else you guys wanted to touch on before we...
We're really excited to be here. Thanks so much for...
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for coming in. This was very insightful. Well, you have been joined